Today we're doing a little bit different first impression here because it's not a true first impression. But I just wanted to do a first impression review of the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Long Barrel Pro Series pistol. As you can see, there's already one up there. That's my USPSA production competition pistol. And in here's a brand new one. So the difference is it's not a true first impression. And the second difference is I'm going to go a little bit longer because this pistol is going to be a project pistol. So this is also the first video in the M&P Pro 3-gun build series. So I don't know how frequently I'm going to be able to update this project, but I got to have it ready to go for June 2017. So that's when the season starts here locally. All right, so without further ado, let's get the first impression underway, 5 minutes or less. All right, we got our Smith & Wesson blue. Gotta love it. I'm a Smith & Wesson fan, sorry. I like the blue. Simple case. Now this has already been opened as well. I've just put everything back together. You got your instructions, your lock, all that stuff in the top here, just like anything else. And in the oil paper, we have our pistol. Magazines are already out of here too. It comes with your different grip sizes. The Pro Series comes with this more aggressively textured grip. I don't have a standard grip on hand. I should have grabbed one, sorry. But basically this more aggressive texture, better feel, small, medium, and large. I already put on the large back strap as that feels best to my hand. The nice thing I like about the Smith & Wesson interchangeable back strap is it's all the dimensions with one piece. The size large is wider or thicker and also deeper, adding a little more depth to the beaver tail here, getting the web of the hand up there. It just feels really excellent on my hands, leaving this nice aggressive texture open there to get your full grip on that pistol. That was one of the reasons I ended up going with the Smith & Wesson M&P series for my own personal pistols. When I first started getting into the pistols, I thought for sure at first 1911, gotta get a 1911. Ended up not getting a 1911 obviously, and then I was thinking, okay, let's look at the polymer frame guns. That's what's new now. Of course, you look at Glock. I thought for sure I'm gonna get a Glock. Went to some different local stores. This is before I had my own place, obviously. Put the Glock in my hand. I did not like the feel at all. Put the M&P in my hand, and it just feels excellent. That's the number one thing I tell people. I actually just had somebody asking me today, what should I look at? Or what do I like? What's my advice? They were thinking Glock. And I said, go try it out. See if it fits your hand. I love the M&P. It fits my hand very well. Aesthetically, its looks I like a lot. So that's my personal choice. I think it's a sleeker looking gun. It feels better in my hand. Pretty much the biggest negative, which most people will tell you, is this trigger. So we've got our safety flag in there. Let's dump that. Okay, so we obviously are clear. Okay, stock trigger. You feel that? Let's see if we can hear that. I don't know if that is going to come through or not, but it almost feels or hears and it almost sounds like and feels like some sandpaper in there. I'll strip it down and show you what causes that initially in just a moment. But that initial take up is pretty gritty on a stock out of the box gun. This trigger's probably been pulled a dozen times or less right now. Hit that wall. Pretty good break. Trigger's still pulled back. Let's test the reset. The reset on the newer guns has gotten a lot better. Some of the earlier ones, the reset, you couldn't feel it, you couldn't hear it, anything. Apex Tactical has the Apex RAM. That's in my competition pistol here. I have another one that's going to be going into this. So, my first impression of the M&P series, aesthetically, much more pleasing to me. It's got all the normal accessories that you see on a modern pistol, the Picatinny rail up front, the adjustable grip. The different companies have accomplished the grip interchangeable design with various different ways. The one I like next after this one, and I can't really rate it completely because you'll see my other review of the H&K, you can change side panels and back separately. So you may feel better with a narrower width, but like more depth, or just the other way around. You like a wider palm swell, but it's shallower here. So there's a little more interchangeability with the H and K, but I just don't have a lot of time with it. So we're just around the 5-minute mark for the first impression there. I'm biased. This is what I've chosen for my own personal competition and pistols in general. I've got that M&P family. So now let's change gears. And we're going to start going over the build, what we can do with the M&P. So first, I'm going to go over my USPSA competition pistol for production class. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get my drawer open, and I'm going to grab my not so fancy trigger pull gauge. So again, with our bone stock, triggers only get been pulled a handful of times. Let's see what our stock trigger pull is. That broke at 6.5 pounds. Let's just do 3 readings for science. 6.5. One more. Just over 6. Okay. Bone stock, very consistent, 6-pound trigger pull. I'll go on to safety check. It's empty, guys and girls and everyone in between. 4 pounds. 3.5. 3.75. So 3.5 to 4 pound trigger pull. What have I done to this? The rules in USPSA for production division, it's pretty much as close to bone stock as you can get. That's the idea, as level of a playing field as possible. Everyone all over the country is only limited to 10 rounds in the magazine. So no matter what the stock capacity is, 10 rounds, 9mm is the bare minimum caliber. You could compete with 45 or 40 or 357 SIG, whatever. But you're only scored minor scoring. You can check out my Getting Started in USPSA video for some more details there, or visit uspsa.org and check the rules to learn more about that. So in production, aesthetic modifications are fine. I did my fill-in of my engravings with my blue, you know, of course, as I said, Smith & Wesson blue, right? It's kind of this iridescent blue, closest color match I could find to the anodized blue. That's very close to that. Where is it? There it is. Smith & Wesson blue back there. My striker plate retention, that's just aesthetic. I double checked with the NROI at USPSA to make sure it's rule compliant. That's only for looks. Doesn't really do anything. It's aluminum. You could get a laser engraved with a logo on it if you want. It's $20 from a company. Search laser engraved plates. You can get them for Glocks as well. Other modification you're allowed is that magazine release. You can, as long as it only extends the length. So if we look at this, you can see that it's further out, okay? Extending the length of that stock magazine release. Also, anodized blue. My base plates are Springer Precision base plates, anodized blue, of course. So those are aesthetic. This is performance and a little aesthetic. As long as that only extends the length, I recommend the Springer Precision magazine release. You can get them in black, blue, red, silver. I think that's everything right now. All anodized aluminum. You could paint the slide. You could Cerakote, whatever. Aesthetics, whatever. What's next? Those are all the external. Nope, not all the external modifications. The only other external modification you can make in production division is stippling or grip tape on the grip area only. So some people will take a soldering iron and do it themselves, and basically create more aggressive texture in the grip area, but you can only stay in this zone. There's diagrams in the rule book. Front strap is fine, back strap is fine, but you basically are staying in this zone. You could add skateboard grip tape or the rubberized grip tape. Plenty of companies make pre-cut of that, including Springer Precision, as well as Ben Stoker Pro Shop offers it in different colors as well. I personally am fine with the grip. I haven't had an issue with that yet. Basically, how I went about things in my first season here was I only modified something after I found it was a failure point. Other than the trigger, which I'm going to get into next, the first modification I did was getting that extended magazine release. This short magazine release on the stock, I was missing it. I wasn't getting fully depressed on there, even with a larger hand being able to wrap it around. With the medium grip panel in there, I can get it no problem, but it doesn't feel as good as my hand when I'm shooting. So I've got my large grip with my extended magazine release, and that solved that problem. Getting quick mag drops, no problem there. I can even use my middle finger on that easily if I want to, a little bit easier than the standard one. Okay, so those are those external modifications legal for production division. Internally, you're allowed to change springs. You can polish your components. I've got the Apex RAM in there. All stuff like that is legal, and they say it is because it's hard to regulate. That's a very reasonable call on their part, in my opinion. You can't change the trigger, or the trigger shoe is technically this component because it is external. So I'm going to take it down real quick. Take down lever, grab a pencil, flip my sear disengage. Okay, so internally, nothing really wild going on there. Normal. You could play with your spring rate, but if you're not lightening your slide or messing with your rounds too much, it's not going to matter. So internally, basically polishing the components, polishing your contact points. Right here, this disengages the sear plunger. This is also the Apex sear plunger in there with the Apex. Basically, all the Apex springs are in this gun right now. So Apex enhanced sear plunger and spring. It's smoother, rounder edges. The contact between these two components is what causes the grit of the initial take up and pull to the wall of the stock trigger. So when you can see here, when you pull the trigger, that piece moves forward and slightly up, pushing this up and letting the striker move freely once it's disengaged from the sear. The back half, I'm going to flip that sear disengage. That back edge right there that shadow line, that's where your striker catch, I guess I'll call it, engages with the sear. That's where your actual release occurs. So you can see when you pull the trigger, boop, it lets go. So polishing the face of the contact point there, the back of that, and the contact point here, that's just about it. There's the sear engagement loop underneath, which is kind of hard to see right there, which pushes the sear up, as you can see it moving. Polishing that and the underside of the sear is what's going to make that trigger smooth. It's also going to lighten up the pull a little bit. Two contact points, smoother they are, the smoother the motion is going to feel. You can think about it taking two pieces of sandpaper and rubbing them together. It's going to go two pieces of nice smooth paper, smooth motion, right? So you can reduce the weight of the trigger pull by polishing those components, as well as reducing the spring tension on that release there. The striker spring is from the Apex Competition Trigger Pack, and the trigger return spring is from that competition trigger pack as well. So those components, that little bit of polishing, and that polishing is achieved with your rotary tool, or Dremel is the brand, with your felt wheel, with some polishing compound, jeweler's rouge, or even just some standard metal polish, will go light years to just smooth that trigger pull out. So, reassembling that. So that's everything you can do to your stock gun. Moving on to a bone stock gun. So what's going to happen with this guy over the next several months? We're going to start out with the trigger, throwing some Apex parts in there. I had originally had these in this gun. I originally built this gun to be a limited 10 division gun before I fully understood the rules of scoring for your power factor. That's again explained in my getting started video. So I had my Apex flat face forward set sear trigger kit. Say that 3 times fast. I've got the stock spare plunger out of this guy, and I've got the Apex ram in there as well. Again, that helps with the feel of the trigger reset, both tactile and audible. So the first thing, ever since I've already got them, tuning up that trigger. What I'm going to do first is really do that good polish job, put in the trigger components out of here, which include the sear, the trigger shoe, a couple of the springs, the Apex ram. I'm going to take this extra one and really polish it up. What you can see there, it's pretty much a right angle. So you actually radius it a little bit, round it over just a little bit, and that takes a lot of time, and I'll do a specific video on that. And it only takes a lot of time because you don't want to remove too much metal or heat the metal up and lose its temper. So rounding that out, just that edge a little bit, smoothing it out is going to make that initial take up a lot smoother and even reduce the trigger pull a little bit. So that trigger's going in there, putting that. All right, had a little bit of a mix-up there, or not a mix-up, had a phone call come in, so answered that. So we'll catch up there. Talking about the Apex trigger, forward set trigger, moving it forward more, shorter pull. The leverage has changed. I'll be aiming to get that down to a 3, just like this gun. 3 to 4 pound trigger pull. I'll be very happy with that. And as a couple thousand rounds go through it, the parts wear in, smooth out a little bit more, I'll be happy, like I said, with anywhere between 3 and 4 pound trigger pull, aiming for that butter zone of 3.5. The other thing that's going to be happening here, which will be a major change, is doing slide lightning. I'll be doing some variation of the speed cuts are usually what you see the different companies call them, where we got 3 to 5 cuts going in. It's both aesthetically pleasing, it looks really cool, and lightens the slide somewhat. Lightening the slide makes you have to adjust your recoil spring, change the tension there. You're aiming to get that balance of quick follow-up shots as well as softer shooting, reducing that recoil to, again, aid in those follow-ups. This guy will be getting also a magazine release, extended magazine release, a magazine well to aid in quicker reloads. Going to be getting the slide Cerakoted to match my other competition rifle. Magpul OD green. Get the barrels, going to get done in burnt bronze, the small components in burnt bronze. It'll get all totally torn apart, basically, when this gets sent to the machine shop. Totally tear down, get all the different internal and visible parts Cerakoted or gun coated, depending on the color or the components. That's pretty much everything. So with the 3-gun rules for practical division, they're basically the USPSA limited division rules, which that name can be confusing. Limited division, you can do anything to the pistol except for optics and muzzle devices. So anything else goes. in that limited division, which is also effectively practical division and 3-gun. So, gritty trigger. It'll wear in. I'm not too worried. It's just very funny going from a year's worth of shooting with this guy grabbing that brand new bone stock. It feels like a totally different gun. And it really doesn't take much work to turn it into what this has become here. Sights, I'm just going to keep the sights for now. I really like that front fiber optic dot with the low glare Novak sights. It really works for my eyes. Some people like red. I like green. I pick it up a lot faster, a lot better. And then just the plain rear sights. So I only am looking for that single green dot to line that up quickly. Personal preference on color and the sights. What makes you shoot better? That's really it. Just remembered one more thing. This will be getting the striker plate will be getting replaced with a Springer Precision slide racker. That again is aluminum, replaces that, and has that lever that does two things: quick extra force or lever, as the name is, to rack that slide quicker, and also for table starts. If the gun has to be at a table on your stage start, lifts up that back end a little bit, so when you're picking that pistol up, you can get that thumb underneath, use your other hand to scoop it up, get into that full grip faster. So yeah, that's the M&P9 Pro Series 5-inch barrel. First impression, but not a real first impression, and going over everything you can do to it to make it a great production gun for USPSA, or in 3-gun it would be in factory division. And then talking about what this thing is going to become over the next several months. So stay tuned for videos about how all that's going to go together, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So as usual, like, share, and subscribe. Any comments, questions, or concerns in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.